It'll be a dry picture in the northeast of England tonight with clear spells for most, quickly turning chilly under clear skies. It'll be dry at first in southern Scotland this evening, but skies will cloud over, bringing scattered showers to end the day, turning breezy later. Skies will cloud over in Northern Ireland this evening. As the cloud thickens, there could be a few spots of rain in the north. The heavy rain across the south will gradually ease tonight, clearing to the far southeast by dawn. A largely dry night elsewhere and chilly in the countryside. And that's how the weather is shaping up overnight into tomorrow morning.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's comedian Leo Kearse and broadcaster and director of Car 26, Lois Perry. Before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thanks, Nana. It's just after 4 o'clock. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Electronic tags could be used to monitor migrants who cross the Channel in small boats or come to the UK in lorries. Under new government plans, adults requesting asylum will be placed on immigration bail as part of a 12-month pilot scheme in England and Wales. Anyone who breaks their bail conditions could be taken back to a detention centre or even prosecuted. Boris Johnson says the plans are necessary to tackle illegal immigration.
This is a very, very generous, welcoming country. Quite right too. I'm proud of it. And the government is composed of people, as you know, Tom, who trace their immediate lineage to people who've come in fear of their lives to this country. But when people come here illegally, when they break the law, it's important that we make that distinction. That's what we're doing with our Rwanda policy. That's what we're doing with making sure that asylum seekers can't just vanish into the rest of the country.
Next week's rail strikes could cost the UK economy more than £1 billion, the government has been told. Industry group UK Hospitality estimates that tourism and leisure sectors will take a big hit due to the disruption. Tens of thousands of rail workers will strike across the UK on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. That's after talks between rail operators and the unions over pay, jobs and conditions broke down. Network Rail says it expects only a fifth of services to run. Hundreds of protesters have gathered in central London this afternoon demanding government action over the rising cost of living. Research by the TUC union claims workers have lost almost £20,000 since 2008 because their pay hasn't kept up with inflation. Union officials described workers' struggle with rising bills as gut-wrenching. Boris Johnson has refused to say whether he'll replace his ethics advisor after Lord Geit resigned. In a leaked letter, the former advisor on ministerial interests said he couldn't be party to advising on potential law-breaking. When asked this morning about the future of the position, the PM refused to confirm whether he'd keep the role.
You're ahead of me, Tom. So, but
I have to say, it's what your spokesman told us all earlier this week, that you were considering changing the way that ethics were run in Downing Street.
We're looking at what we can do to make sure that we have a sensible way forward on steel tariffs.
Boris Johnson says he hopes Ukraine can host the Eurovision Song Contest next year. After returning from a surprise trip to Kyiv, the PM said Ukraine deserves to host the event as it won this year's competition. The BBC is reportedly in talks with the European Broadcasting Union about hosting the event due to the conflict in Ukraine. And the President of the United States has been filmed falling off his bike during a ride in Delaware. Joe Biden was riding with his wife when his foot got caught and he lost control and tumbled onto the ground. The security service was quick to react and help the 79-year-old get back up onto his feet. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's return to Nana Akua.
Oh, I shouldn't laugh, really. Poor Joe Biden. That's not very nice. Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 5 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Nicola Sturgeon, she's back again. To be fair, she never left. Guess what she's banging on about this time?
Though, if it is to be deliverable, command confidence and achieve its objective, must be lawful. But my duty as the democratically elected First Minister is to the people of Scotland. It is not to Boris Johnson or to any Tory Prime Minister.
Yeah. Breaking up the union. No change there. On Tuesday, she compared Scotland to other countries that successfully managed comfortably on their own. Her speech suggested that Scotland would basically leave the union of the United Kingdom to join another, the EU, where their values are more aligned. My mother wasn't impressed. You saw what the EU did to Theresa May. They will squeeze her like a lemon. I just can't stand that woman. So it may surprise you to hear that alongside her address this week to confirm that Scotland will move ahead with a referendum regardless of whether she is given the go-ahead by Westminster, she's now offering up Scotland to host the next Eurovision Song Contest. It is tradition that the winner must host the next one. However, due to the war in Ukraine, it cannot be hosted there, as it takes a full year to put together. The Eurovision organisers suggested that as the UK were runners-up, it could potentially be held here. They said, as a result of this decision, in accordance with the rules and to ensure the continuity of the event, the EBU, that's them, will now begin discussions with the BBC as this year's runner-up to potentially host the 2023 Eurovision Song Contest in the United Kingdom. Nicola Sturgeon responded, tweeting, "We wish at Eurovision could be in Ukraine, but understand that in circumstances this isn't possible. However, I can think of a perfect venue on the banks of the River Clyde." Let me get this straight. You have basically slagged off Westminster and England and the Union as a whole, which you are clearly desperate to leave. It's literally the only thing on your agenda, yet you are now happy to be part of the Union when it comes to hosting the Eurovision Song Contest. That was won by, well, you guessed it, the United Kingdom. Can you see how that looks, Nicola? Mind you, she doesn't seem to be bothered about how things look. Apparently, the announcements like the one she made on Tuesday should be made before the Scottish Parliament, ahead of the press conference that she called. But she didn't bother about that. She just went straight in with the press. Opinion polls also suggest that the timescale for the vote that she wants to stage in the autumn next year has been opposed by the majority of Scots. But hey-ho, she just wants to break up the union. And if I'm not wrong, the River Clyde runs through Glasgow, the drug death capital of the world. I found this quote on the Transform website about Glasgow. I and my Scottish colleagues often pick our way through discarded needles and excrement in places people are forced to inject as they try to escape from the misery and suffering. Now, I'm sure all of Glasgow is like that, of course. But perhaps, rather than focusing on making foreign delegates feel comfortable, remember COP26, that virtue signalling thing that they all flew to in private jets as they pretended to be trying to save the environment whilst poverty sat outside its very perimeters. Remember that? Perhaps rather than focusing on trying to look good to the rest of the world, she could focus her energy on cleaning up her own backyard. Nicola Sturgeon, nil point. I feel better now. Right, before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. At 5 in my difficult conversation, I'll meet the inspiring woman, Effa Madden, who is living with Fowler syndrome after she was diagnosed with the chronic illness. She took a hand to blogging, raising awareness of her condition whilst breaking down the stigma surrounding this hidden disability. Coming up later this hour, it's the Great British Debate, and I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Some asylum seekers who arrive in the UK in small boats or in the back of lorries could be electronically tagged under a new Home Office trial. But critics say that the planned threat treats those fleeing persecution as criminals. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? And then just before 5, it's our Royal Roundup. There's always something going on in the royal household. And this time, Prince William, who's going to be turning 40 on Tuesday, a landmark birthday for our future monarch. But however, sources say that a rift is widening between he and his brother Harry, with reports claiming that William said Harry has been sucked into an alien world since moving to LA. That's all coming up in the next hour. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. I should have stopped by world alien by emailing. I'm joking. GBViews at gbnews.uk or tweet me at GBNews. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel comedian Leo Kearse and broadcaster and director of Car 26, Lois Perry. Right, well, good to see you, Lois. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you sleep at all? Because you were on Mark Dolan's, now you're back.
Yeah, I did. I got a little bit of sleep, but I'm very, very pleased to be back. Thank you for having me.
Oh, always a pleasure, always a pleasure. And, of course, Leo, nice to see you again. Well, I think I'll start with you, seeing as this is your little friend, Nicola Sturgeon.
I'm the spokesman for Scotland.
You know, she wants to... she's talked about the Eurovision Song Contest. Now, suddenly, she's part of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous, particularly considering she made a really tasteless bid for Scottish independence on the back of Ukraine. She used Russia's invasion of Ukraine, tried to draw parallels between Russia invading Ukraine and Scotland being part of the UK somehow. I've got no idea, how she thought that was going to work. So, she really needs to give thanks to Boris Johnson for showing such steadfast support to the Ukrainians in their hour of need, and really, leading Europe in their support for Ukraine and making sure that other countries in Europe step up to the mark. And yeah, as you point out, Glasgow, I think it'd be safer. There's less violence in Kyiv. There's better life expectancy in Ukraine. You've got probably less chance of getting killed in Donbass than you do on the banks of the Clyde. So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that she'd think, Glasgow's in it, in its current state, that it's a good place to host the Eurovision Song Contest. It does have huge problems with drug deaths. life expectancy is really low, health outcomes are really low. It's, she really needs to stop fantasising about Scottish independence and focus on what she should be doing, which is delivering for the people of Scotland.
And of course, Lewis, they had COP26 there, didn't they? That virtue signalling thing that they all pretended that they were doing good, but they were doing nothing at all.
No, they were doing nothing at all apart from throwing me out of the actual exhibition centre and me having to lock myself in a disabled toilet. I've told you about that before.
No, I didn't. No, sorry.
No, so I was doing a broadcast on another thing, and they realised who I was and what I was doing there, and I sort of noticed out the corner of my eye, and I thought, right, I'm going to leg it. And they were running after me, the security people, so I locked myself in the disabled toilet, and I actually did a live broadcast on my iPhone with them banging on the door, and they're supposed to be all for free speech, aren't they? So, never mind. But no, Nicola Sturgeon is absolutely vile, isn't she? And but she just is, and they have had a referendum, and the Scots wanted to stay with us. David Bowie said stay with us, and they did. And I think they did some polling again recently, which showed again that Scottish people want to remain part of the United Kingdom. But she wants to go into Europe, doesn't she? She wants to suck up, be all woke, and do loads of woke European stuff. That's what this is all about. That's what she's there for.
It's shameful as well. But then on the back of Eurovision, she's now saying that we can host it in...
She's a hypocrite, isn't she?
She's a hypocrite, isn't she?
Absolutely. Yeah, she is.
What's she going to do with the currency? She said in this speech on Tuesday that she would outline how they would, how they'll go about using the currency and what would happen and everything else like that. That'll be a very interesting outline.
Yeah, and considering Scotland was against Brexit, Scotland leaving the UK would make Brexit look like a picnic. It would be an absolute disaster for Scotland. Over 60% of Scotland's trade is done with the rest of the UK. So if we had a hard border with England and we had a separate currency, I mean, can you imagine the absolute mess?
You think they repurposed Hadrian's Wall?
Well, they'd have to build it a bit
make it a
taller.
little bit higher,
I can step over it. I've walked that thing. It's
but
easy.
interesting you use that as an argument, because some people would say that the majority of our trade was with the EU and we sort of separated from them. So with that argument, you could probably put it the other side and say that the majority of our trade was with the EU, so we'd be crazy to have left them.
No, I mean, I've voted Remain. I still don't think... I mean, I'm sort of coming round to the Leave side of things, but I still
Why? Why are you
I still don't think it's economically... well, I mean, looking at how the vaccine rollout was dealt with, and just looking at my eyes have been open to the bureaucracy and also the sort of just the machinations of European Parliament and how it controls things.
Well, there's no black people there. I've not seen one dark face in as the MEPs. I look and I think, well, OK, if I'm going to go with these people, have they got a nice sort of diverse range? I'm not somebody who thinks you need diversity in this and diversity and you should have the best.
Yeah, but they're always going on about it,
I
aren't
believe,
they? They're not
exactly.
doing it. Yeah.
So if you're going to be championing it, then I want to see that you're actually doing what you're saying. And as you're championing it, they haven't even... I don't even think they've noticed.
Well, wait till you see. Wait till you see the African League of Nations or whatever they've got in Africa. There's plenty of black faces there.
But there would be, wouldn't there?
Well, there would be. There would be.
I mean, if you're looking to Hungary and Poland for examples of lots of black people, I mean, you're not going to...
that's not...
diversity.
I'm talking about diversity within even the MEPs. So within the MEPs who represent the European Parliament, right, there should be diversity, because all the countries around the EU that are from the EU, there should be some people who would maybe be of colour, there should be some people who are maybe from other places, but every single one of them, they're all white. And I mean, for me, whilst I don't really think, you have to have a black person there, I'm just looking and saying, how can you empathise with me, for example, me being dark-skinned? There's certain things that would be different for me. Where is any level of empathy? It's a bit like some of those companies coming out with an advert. I can't remember which one it was, but they had it was for Easter, and the dark one was ugly, the ugly duckling, and the other one was the white one was this and that.
Oh right.
Yeah.
So that's changed, hasn't it? Now you can't have an ad break with every single advert. It's like
but somebody who was dark-skinned who saw that in the planning process might have said, hold on a second, that could be perceived as this, even if I don't perceive it. And there's nobody there to give them any direction as to perception that how it would be perceived by
practicing what they preach. Is what you're saying, basically. No, I get that.
It's not diverse enough in thought either.
But anyway, getting back to the point of Scotland hosting Eurovision, I mean, I think that would be ridiculous considering that Boris Johnson
host it, don't you?
Well, considering Boris Johnson is given so much support to Ukraine, I mean, it should. But Sturgeon should at least be thanking Boris for the support he's shown to Ukraine. I think Ukraine should host it. I think Kyiv.
God, I'm not going.
They're, also...
It can't do that. It'd be a target. Vladimir Putin wouldn't think twice, would he?
And also the logistics of everyone getting it there and everything. And it does take a lot of
They're
planning.
managing to get tanks there.
Yeah, but there's no
We're
flights.
shifting
There are no
tanks into
flights.
Ukraine, so I think we'll be able
We're talking
to...
about girls in sparkly costumes, We're not
easier to
talking about
carry.
tanks, are we?
There are no flights.
No,
we wouldn't send them on EasyJet, but there's obviously, logistically, we'll be able to get people into Ukraine.
Yeah, but can we get them out again? That's the problem.
2 million refugees have returned to Ukraine so far, so they're getting in somehow.
Yeah, they are, but the point is that if you were to have an international event with lots of famous celebrities and so there, this would be a fantastic...
Borderline famous. They might have been famous in 1987.
But Vladimir Putin would love that as a target. He doesn't care.
I don't think he'd bomb Eurovision.
But our song was better, wasn't it?
You wouldn't have thought that he'd flattened Mariupol, but he did.
Yeah, but I mean...
You wouldn't think that he'd bombed hospitals, would you?
That's a fair point.
Or theatres.
Yeah.
That say children are here.
Yeah,
He
but then
didn't
maybe NATO would be dragged in if he bombed Eurovision.
Well, let's not set off World War III just for Eurovision, eh?
Yeah,
let's do it in London or somewhere.
Anyway, so Nicola Sturgeon, I'm sorry, but if you want to be part of the union, stop banging on about breaking up the union and then trying to take all the good
She doesn't want to be part of the union.
Yeah, but she wants to take all the good stuff that's part of the union.
She does. Yeah. Well, as I say, she's trying to suck up to the EU, and it's called Eurovision, so there's an element of that in it as well.
She wants
the cake and eat it.
Yeah, she wants the fancy events like Eurovision, and she wants all the money she gets from Westminster. She gets £15 billion pounds a year, plus more. No, not the oil money. That comes from Scotland. But she gets £15 billion pounds a year from extra on top of the tax revenues and fuel revenues from Scotland.
North Sea oil production, isn't she? So where's that? How are they going to cope economically if we're not part of the union? We're strong because we're a union. Yeah.
Well, I mean...
And we're an island. And that gives us we've got a big moat all the way around us. I learned that on the first day of A-level politics.
Did you?
That's why we're strong. Yeah.
Do you think maybe she's sort of saying it tongue-in-cheek and she's attempting a joke?
Oh, no. Really? Oh, no, don't do that, Nicola. Don't attempt a joke, please.
Yeah, Nicola, it's not funny. Right. Well, listen, it's coming up to 19 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. We are the People's Channel. You can catch us live now on YouTube as well. Now, after the break, it is time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Some asylum seekers could be electronically tagged under a new Home Office trial. But critics say the plan treats those fleeing persecution as criminals. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Send us your thoughts, gbviews@gbnews.uk. You can also tweet us at GBNews, and there is a poll up right now asking that very question. Should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Cast your vote now. Let's go for a break.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
So if you just joined me, where have you been? It's 22 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, we're talking about Nicola Sturgeon. She's suggesting that we should host the Eurovision Song Contest in Scotland. Let's have a look at what you've been saying. And John says, surely, if Sturgeon wants to break up the union, everyone in the UK should get a vote, as it affects us all. See, I agree with that. Fraser says, Leo is spot on. If Scotland changes its currency, it would ruin not just Scotland, but the rest of the UK too. Kay says, love the show, but a quick geography lesson. Hadrian's Wall is in modern-day England. Don't put the border there. Don't want to be giving land away to the SNP. There you go, Lois.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for that. I didn't know that either. Well done, good. Right, thank you for that. Right, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Now, some asylum seekers who arrive in the UK in small boats or in the back of lorries could be electronically tagged under a new Home Office trial. A 12-month trial could affect adults due to be removed from the UK after arriving via what the government calls dangerous or unnecessary routes. The first to be tagged will likely be people who successfully challenged their removal to Rwanda this week. But critics say that the plan treats those fleeing persecution as criminals. Well, they are, and they have crossed the channel illegally. To say that out loud. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Right, so I'm joined by the Specialist Advisor on Modern Slavery at the Human Trafficking Foundation, Phil Brewer. Phil, so lovely to have you on board. So firstly, Phil, where do you stand on this one?
Good afternoon, Nana. From my point of view, this creates more of an issue in terms of treating people as criminals. So, and that isn't coming at this from a soft point of view. These are people, on the whole, that have travelled, made dangerous journeys to escape persecution. And the fact is, when they arrive in the UK, what is somewhere that is seen and recognised as a safe place, they are then treated akin to people that have committed criminal offences.
But, Phil, forgive me if I've got this wrong, but if they've crossed the channel via a dinghy, doing that, entering the country in this way is illegal, right? But by tagging these people, then you know where they are. So they have committed, in a sense, an illegal act, and we are simply tracking where they are. So they don't just disappear into the ether. Surely that is the right thing to do. Why would you say that that's sort of morally wrong? Do you think it's morally wrong?
Well, I think it is, because it again restricts people's movements when they've not actually committed a significant or serious crime. And the real challenge around this is that, this isn't a new thing, as we know. This is that the approach to try and find a process that is fair to people that are seeking to remain in the UK, whether that's from an asylum point of view or otherwise, has been an issue for ages. And actually tagging someone isn't really going to make any difference. We've had processes in place where people reported at police stations or signed on periodically, and that hasn't worked. So now going down the route of tagging people, which again is going to need resource to police, to govern, it's not really going to make any difference other than, have a significant impact on those people's mental health, welfare, in terms of being treated as they see as criminals.
But Phil, I'll just come back to the same thing though. But how isn't what they've done to come to this country in this way illegal? So ultimately, if you commit an illegal act, then that is a criminal act, right? I mean, that's what I'm thinking. And also the tag is now, just because it is used for criminal acts in general, it also has another purpose as well, which is to know where people are or where someone is, so you can track someone. Otherwise, I know you said, they could do something different or whatever, but why bother when you can put an electronic tag on someone and know where they are? So if they're in this country, you at least know where they are. A lot of people coming illegally, some have criminal records. Not all, but some do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not saying that this is, in terms of a process that that criminalises people that are already criminals. You know, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying in terms of the tag, you know, if you're coming here for a criminal purpose, then the tag's easily removed anyway. If you've got something to hide, I'm talking about those people. And I appreciate what you say, the fact that, you know, it has been criminalised under the Nationality and Borders Act recently introduced by government. You know, entering the UK without proper reason, you know, is actually a criminal offence.
Yeah.
However, it's the reason why people have done that. You know, we all end up in a situation. There are people that end up in a situation that find themselves in a predicament where they have to do something illegal in order to protect themselves and to become safe.
But then the consequences of doing something illegal to keep yourself safe may be that you have a tag. And surely that is a fair enough thing until you've been processed, till you are legal in this country. Bear in mind, most of the people who make the crossing in the end up being legal in this country. There are many people who disappear. And that's the thing. If the tag, and I mean, the deal could be that if you remove the tag, then you'll be sent to Rwanda or where it is, or somewhere else, because you're now breaking the law of this country again. Surely.
And yeah, I understand what you're saying, but one of the real challenges around this is that with the process broken, you are almost you're tagging someone indefinitely until their case is heard, and we know that people are waiting literally years before their cases are dealt with. So this isn't tagging people isn't going to improve the process. You know, as I say, and I appreciate you were saying that at least we'll know where they are. But I would also argue, but do we actually have the resources to track those people on a regular basis if that's what the government feel will make a difference? And the whole time we're not actually sort of addressing the underlying issue, which is a system that is broken in terms of assessing who has arrived and requires the support and the protection of the UK, or those that are looking more at coming to the UK for an economic reason.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Phil, it's a start, isn't it? Anyway, but lovely to talk to you. That's Phil Brewer. He's a specialist advisor on modern slavery, human trafficking from the Human Trafficking Foundation. I'm also joined by a former chief immigration officer at UK Border Force, Kevin Saunders. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me. Well, what do you think about the electronic tags? He said that it's going to be a lot of effort to do very little, and they can take the tag off anyway.
Good afternoon, Nana.
Good afternoon.
Great show.
Thank you.
Right. Let's talk about this tagging, and let's try and dispel some of the misnomers which seem to be circulating at the moment. First of all, we look as though we should tagging the high-risk people, the people that are likely to abscond. So, those people that were scheduled to fly to Rwanda last week, you'll be tagging them straight away, because if you don't want to put them into detention, then they're going to disappear into the unregulated economy. So that's the first step. The second step here is that when the boats arrive, we're not going to give them a cup of tea and a tag. That's not going to happen. People are going to be assessed to decide who is likely to be high risk and we need to tag, and those that we aren't going to tag.
Do you think? Well, OK, so that's how it's going to go. So it's not... and anyway, I mean, it's not really meant to be anything cruel in a way, is it? It's just meant to keep tabs on who's here and who isn't. You said just the high-risk ones would be tagged, but surely do you think it would be a better idea to tag everybody so you know where everybody is, kind of thing? Or is that, as our previous commentator said, that would actually be difficult logistically or probably impossible to monitor?
It might be difficult to monitor. I mean, having 11,000 people tagged, and that's only this year, would be a challenge, I would think. But realistically, if you're going to put people in detention or you're going to tag them, what would you rather do? Would you rather be locked up in a detention centre, or would you rather wear a tag? I know what I'd rather do. So I'm sorry, I can't see the problem, really.
What he's sort of saying is it's almost like people will feel like criminals. He talked about mental health and that sort of thing.
Well, I'm hearing that every asylum seeker that comes to the UK is suffering from mental health problems. It seems to me that it's an excuse just not to be sent to Rwanda. So I'm not going along those lines at all. You are entering the UK illegally, whatever anybody says. The Act actually says if you arrive in an irregular manner, then it's an offence. So we could, if we wanted to, actually lock everybody up that came to the UK. That wouldn't be a right and proper thing to do. So if we're going to tag people that are high risk, and we're not going to tag pregnant women, we're not going to tag children or anything like that. So it's only likely, in my opinion, to be the men that are tagged. And since 70% of the people that come across the channel are men, then we'll just have to see. It will make it easier for our enforcement teams when people don't show up for where they should be to actually go after them. And of course, if they do cut the tag off, then they're creating another criminal offence and they'll have to go through the courts.
Or simply be sent back or something, or sent to Rwanda. What do you think of the Rwanda plan? Very briefly, we've got about 20 seconds. Is it good or bad?
It's a deterrent. It's not the best idea in the world, but it's the only one that's on the table at the moment. I would much rather that the French stopped burying their heads in the sand and talk to us about a proper policy.
Yeah, well, Kevin, you and me both. Thank you so much for talking to me. That's Kevin Saunders. He's the former Chief Immigration Officer of the UK Border Force. Wow. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, we'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel. Comedian Leo Kearse and also broadcaster and director of Car 26, Lois Parry. And, of course, coming up at 5 in my difficult conversation, I'll meet an inspiring lady, Ive Madden, who is living with Fowler's syndrome after she was diagnosed with the chronic illness. She took her hand to blogging, raising awareness of her condition, while breaking down the stigma surrounding hidden disabilities. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thanks, Nana. It's 33 minutes past 4. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. Electronic tags could be used to monitor migrants who cross the channel in small boats or come to the UK in lorries. Under new government plans, adults requesting asylum will be placed on immigration bail as part of a 12-month pilot scheme in England and Wales. Anyone who breaks their bail conditions could be taken back to a detention centre or even prosecuted. Next week's rail strikes could cost the UK economy more than £1 billion. The government has been warned. Industry group UK Hospitality estimates the tourism and leisure sectors will take a big hit due to the disruption. Tens of thousands of rail workers will go on strike across the country on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday over pay, jobs and conditions. Thousands of protesters have gathered in central London this afternoon, demanding government action over the rising cost of living. Research by the TUC union claims workers have lost almost £20,000 since 2008 because pay hasn't kept up with inflation. A new service has been launched to help deaf people contact the emergency services. For the first time, people will be able to video call 999 and use British Sign Language. Potential users must download an app or visit a website to be connected with an interpreter who will relay the conversation to an emergency operator. And the President of the United States has been filmed falling off his bike during a ride in Delaware. Joe Biden was riding with his wife when his foot got caught and he lost control and tumbled onto the ground. The security services were quick to react and help the 79-year-old get back on his feet. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Stay with us. Nana Akua will be back in a moment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's 38 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Don't forget you can download our GB News app and you can check out all of the shows here. But it is now time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Some asylum seekers who arrive in the UK in small boats or in the back of lorries, sorry, not you, Lois.
Oh, Larry.
If they arrived in my back, there'd be something to worry about.
Sorry about
You see the feet sticking out.
Sorry about it. If you're listening on radio, that's Lois Perry. That's why it sort of sounded a bit odd there. But they're riding into the back of small boats and lorries. They could electronically be tagged under the new Home Office trial. But critics say the plan treats those fleeing persecution as criminals. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Well, let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by comedian Leo Kearse and also broadcaster and director of Car 26, Lois Perry.
Not Laurie.
Not Laurie.
Not Laurie
Oh,
Perry,
Laurie.
no.
Yeah. So treated like criminals. I mean, in my view, they are illegal. So, you know, I guess it's the shoe fits. But what do you think, Lois?
Well, we don't know their status until they've been assessed. And I must admit, my first thoughts about this was that it was a bit distasteful. But now that it's been a little bit more explained that it's high-risk individuals who are going to be tagged, then, yeah, maybe it's not that bad. But I also... Do tags actually have like a sat-nav device on them? Because my understanding of it was that you had to be registered to an address and that it beeped if you left the address at certain times, that it didn't necessarily follow you, like it wasn't on a sort of beep, beep, beep on an iPhone or
They can be GPS enabled now.
Oh, they can be.
Yeah,
right.
that was back then. This is now.
Oh, right. Oh, OK. Well,
that was when you were nicking stuff from Woolworths.
Well, yeah, I know. When last time I got tagged, that was a joke. That was a joke. But yeah, I mean, we do need migration, but they shouldn't be getting to the shores in the first place. I mean, why couldn't we put like 3 massive cruise ships in the Channel and have people assessed out there? Everyone else has to go through passport control. Why are people getting in onto the shores in the first place? And if they can track people down to tag them, then they can track them down to detain them or to assess them, surely. So I'm not sure about this.
What do you think? I mean, look, if you know, there are millions of cars on the road and you only need to go through a speed camera and they've got you.
Yeah.
They've got you straight away. So I don't understand why they can't sort of, you know, once you've put the tag in, you can simply track someone. It's not that difficult. I don't know what the guy first was saying, that it would be too complicated. I don't think so. And the act of actually crossing the channel is the illegal act already in that manner. So they have broken the law.
And also there are risks involved with taking an undocumented illegal migrant. So, I mean, if if you look at the failed 7/7 bombers, they were all asylum seekers or illegal migrants from Eritrea. 2 were from Somalia, 1 was from Ethiopia, and 1 was from Ghana. So, there is an obvious risk to the population of not being able to track people and see where they're going. And Britain is a very welcoming, high immigration country. We issued nearly 1 million visas last year for work and study and other things.
But
and we
take people
we take 85. That's not true. We take 85.
You said it's not true. Why is
we
it
take
not true?
85,000 illegal immigrants came to the UK last year.
That's right.
And 23,000 came across the Channel. So these are large numbers. 85,000 is that's a large town.
That's almost a third of them coming illegally in that way.
And it's a dangerous route. 37 illegal immigrants crossing the Channel died last year. So anybody who wants to see people continue to come across on boats is sentencing some of them to a terrible death drowning in the Channel.
Well, that's only the ones we know of that died as well, because I'm sure that there are many hundreds who we have no idea.
So we need to have a deterrent, and this forms part of the deterrent. And I don't think it is so terrible for mental health and compared to incarceration.
Yeah, that's exactly what
tagging's
Kevin
used
said,
as for low-risk criminals. You've still got your freedom. It's not as it's not the same as locking them up in a prison.
I think you're right. I think if it is for people who are at a high flight risk, then that is very different to every single person coming over being tagged. And I do agree with you, but there will be some people that have legitimate claims, and that's why it has to be assessed. But it has to be done in the proper way. And why are they coming over from France? France is a safe country. It is absolutely ridiculous. The figure that I quoted about the 1 million people having left, somebody I spoke to about this said that he'd seen those figures, and it was to do with the amount of people that went home to Eastern Europe during COVID and haven't come back, that had legitimate right to remain, but they came over to work and then they went back to their countries. They wanted to be with their elderly parents, and they've stayed over there because a lot of the people that came over from Eastern Europe had no intention of staying permanently. They just wanted to make some money, build a house in their home country and go home. So there are a huge amount of people that have gone back.
Yeah, in 2020.
OK,
Yeah.
2020,
Yeah.
a year out.
But having said that, though, whilst there have been 1 million people who've come here, we know who those 1 million people are.
No, you're absolutely
and they
right,
have been legally vetted to the correct
It has
channels.
to be done
And in
properly.
fact, if you take away the people who actually came here via the EU, which we probably didn't really count, that would have been probably in the millions as well. So actually, that's why we're having the situation where we haven't got enough people to do the jobs that we have in this country. But I think part of that is also the fact that wages are still too low, so people won't work for money that's not going to satisfy them whilst they're living in this country, because they are people who actually reside here and pay the bills like people who live here.
Yeah, and also, we've got to part of being British, part of our culture is queuing and waiting your fair turn.
Yeah.
So we can't have 85,000 people coming in illegally and jumping the queue ahead of people who are putting in their visa applications and pursuing, going through appropriate channels.
Well, even at passport control, it's a 3 or 4 hour wait.
Well, I'm perfectly OK with tagging all of them, apart from obviously children, because that's not really, the children will be affiliated to an adult or someone, so there's no need to do that. And maybe pregnant women, you can't really run when you're carrying a baby, so you're not going to go far.
We can put the baby down.
Well, no, but I mean, actually...
in your tummy.
This is
you missed that lesson at school, did you?
He's got that all to come, though. His wife is pregnant, isn't she? So
yeah, I think the people coming across the Channel, I've seen a lot of photos of the boats. I haven't noticed very many women and children. So considering they're apparently fleeing war, are they leaving the women and children to fight? I mean, it seems the opposite of what Ukrainian refugees are doing. Ukrainian refugees are women and children, and the men are staying and fighting.
And they want to go back as well. Look, but these people have come. They're here, so I believe they should be tagged. I don't care if they're high risk or low risk. I wouldn't tag children or pregnant people because that doesn't make any sense. But I would tag literally everyone. I wouldn't say, oh, you're high risk or you're not, because everyone's been given the narrative that they've got to use, the stories that they've got to say. Chuck your phone out when you're coming on the channel. Say this, say that, then that won't happen. Do this, that. So just to treat everybody the same, I would do that, and I would monitor it and follow it, because I think we've got the technology.
Why can't we process them at a physical place, though? Why can't we process the people in a secure place and then obviously they can be sent back if they haven't.
But it takes time. That's what he was saying. It takes time.
Okay.
So that's the issue. It takes time. And so, do you wait in a detainment camp, or do you wait with a tag where you can move around, but we know where you are? And I think that's actually the lesser of the two evils. And I think it's a perfectly reasonable approach, especially with the technology that we have. I don't understand why some people are up in arms about it.
I'm amazed at the criticism that this government gets just for trying to reduce the problem with people dying trying to cross the channel, and with the problem with the illegal gangs, making all that money off those people.
No, it's
we take in a huge amount of immigrants. We've got 15% of our population is born overseas. So Britain is a high immigration country, and we're fine with that.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to stop is the illegal immigration that's incredibly dangerous and is skipping the queue ahead of other people.
Right, well, this show is nothing without use and your views, so let's see what you're thinking. Let's welcome our great British voice, your opportunity to tell us what you think about the topics we're discussing. Where should we go? Let's head over to Liverpool. That was a terrible accent. Liverpool?
Yep.
Is that good? OK, let's speak to property developer and author, Truth About Property, Henry Davis. Henry, there you are. I told you he looks like Sting. Don't you think he looks like Sting?
No.
You don't? Sorry, Henry. For those listening on radio, I think he looks like Sting. I think Henry looks like Sting. Anyway, Henry, sorry, talk to us. What do you think? Should they? Is it mean? Is it cruel to tag illegal migrants?
Hi, Nana. Well, maybe I'll look like a much older version of him. So
go back now.
Here's my thinking, guys. Okay, I agree what Leo said. There's so many people criticizing the government. Like, what else are the government going to do? They've tried to work with France. It just doesn't work. And I heard Keir Starmer this morning criticizing the government, but he had no better solution. This is like a deterrent, as is the flights to Rwanda. So in my opinion, although the vast majority of people coming to this country deserve to be treated with the utmost respect, not treated like criminals, unfortunately a tag is a necessary evil. And on a wider front, I would say, why don't we tag, and I'm not relating immigrants to criminals, but why don't we tag all the criminals who burgle houses, for example? Because burglary is a big issue, repeat offending in burglary is a big issue, and why don't we tag all those guys?
Yeah, well, these tags are just, they should just be chucked out to all sorts of people who do all sorts of things. Listen, no, I'm with you, Henry. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. It's the lesser of the two evils, and ultimately, if you cross the channel in that manner, you have broken the law. Henry Davis, thank you so much for talking to us. He's there in Liverpool. Lovely to speak to you. Right, so today I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Lots of you have been getting in touch with your views. Let's see what you're saying. Ben says, if I wanted a better life and decided to take the illegal route into a country, I wouldn't have a problem with them tagging me until I was processed, especially if I threw all my documents away. He makes a very good point.
Yep.
That's the only way, isn't it? What does Carol say? Carol says that whatever your view on immigration, you must be aware by now that everything this government does is theatre to get your attention away from whatever was their last disaster. They have no workable answers for immigration. Don't believe them. Do you believe them, Lois? Do you believe the government?
I do believe that it is pretty convenient that they've come up with this today, with all the other stuff that's going on.
But
Boris Johnson's been coming out with new things almost every day since the vote on his leadership, hasn't he?
But when would he come out with things? They've got to come out with it sometime.
And this is a lot of the criticism of the government is around really just not particularly substantive stuff, like having a slice of cake, working late.
Yeah.
But he went into the office and they worked, and all right, they had a drink and they had a little party, but it's because they were in the office working. Exactly. And everybody's acting like they were sacrificing.
We should have done the Rwanda flights. We should have done that.
Keir Starmer, he's the one. He's a hypocrite. Can't wait to see what happens when he gets his fine. Right, let's see what Bob says. Bob says most countries will throw you in jail if you enter illegally. We just put them in hotels at our expense. Stephen says, what's really the point of more money spent on tags? We all know that they could be cut off or discarded somewhere down the line. Yeah, true, but if they do that, then they should be sent back. Right, there's a poll up, or to Rwanda. There's a poll up on Twitter today throughout the show. I'm asking, should illegal migrants be tagged like criminals? Panel, what do you think? Guess the numbers. What percentage?
I think it's going to be 80% yes.
What do you think, Lois?
Maybe even higher than that, 90%.
What do you think at home? Oh, they're right, absolutely. 89%.
How did it go?
I was looking for 100, but 89 say yes, 89% say yes. I think it's very laughable. I'm 100% with you. Right, well, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, it's our royal roundup. Prince William will turn 40 on Tuesday, a landmark birthday for the future monarch. But sources say a rift is widening between him and, of course, his brother Harry. We'll have all the details on that and more, but first, let's have a quick break.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
with honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 54 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Right, well, there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week, well, it's been no different. Each Saturday, I always love to give you a bit of a rundown, so I'm joined by the former royal correspondent to The Sun, Charles Ray. Charles, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
So Prince William, he is turning 40.
40 on Tuesday, and it's a milestone birthday, obviously. And, of course, the papers are full of features this today, marking the event. Interestingly, the Mail are talking to various people, and they're promising more stuff on Monday. It looks like it's a good read, and it's explaining, yes, William is growing in stature. There's no doubt about that. But also it's highlighting again the rift between him and his brother. And he's actually saying, or friends of his are saying, that William believes that Harry is being sucked into an alien world.
Or something into an alien. That's what I said.
Yeah, you're probably right. The rift between Harry and William is palpable now. There is no, I can't see any way of it being solved. William is very hurt and wounded by things that Harry and Meghan have said, particularly on the Oprah Winfrey show, the racist allegations and everything else. But he is growing in stature. He's growing closer to his father. And it's interesting that William and Charles are now the two leading lights in the royal family and advising the Queen of what's going on. We saw what happened last week with the Jubilee and the Garter ceremony, where William said, look, if Prince Andrew turns up, then I'm not turning up, basically. So he's got a lot of stature coming on.
Well, he also did that lovely thing, didn't he? He wrote a letter to the lady who lost her partner during the Capitol riots.
Yes, I saw that.
That was lovely, wasn't it?
It was. Yes,
he said he'd watched the documentary and he wrote to her and said who he was and everything, and that he's writing to her just because he wanted to share that his.
And I think we're seeing more and more of William and Catherine doing that sort of thing. They're bringing the royal family slap bang into, modern times. And we have to remember that Charles is only going to be, in effect, going to be a caretaker king when he's king. I mean, he'll be lucky, with the greatest respect, he'll be lucky to see a 25th Jubilee, really, which means that William could be 60 when he becomes king. And then we've got George. So Charles is a caretaker for William, really.
The Queen's done well, hasn't she, to make sure that she sustains everything, keeps everything going, and really keeps her hands on the reins. She's done a great job, and I wanted to carry on for quite some time.
Well, we all want her to carry on, but realistically, unless they devise some sort of pill or medication that's going to keep us all going.
Would you take it if they said, look, this
absolutely.
pill? I would as well.
I'd like to get my hair back.
Yeah, me too. I keep wearing this thing. Yeah, I look a bit like you under this. I'm joking. Now let's move on then, because what about Ghislaine Maxwell? Because there's this whole thing that she's trying to blame Prince Andrew now, isn't she? Well,
she's not blaming Prince Andrew. What she's doing, her lawyers have gone to court because they're trying to get... She's facing 30 years in the pokey, for a start off. And her lawyers have gone to the court and said, well, it's unfair, her life is ruined. She fell under the influence of her disgraced father and her shamed boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. Hang on a minute, Ghislaine.
Yeah, exactly.
You were responsible for bringing in young women. You've ruined the lives of an awful lot of young women to bring into this sordid world, sleazy world that you were involved in. And she is going to be sentenced on the 28th of June. It's in a week's time. And they're pleading that she should only serve about something like 3 years because she served 22 months already. They wanted to reduce. I mean, if she gets away with that, I'd like to buy a lottery ticket, to be perfectly honest. I cannot believe that a judge is not going to sentence her to, a hefty sentence. And interestingly, she's going to be in court. It's going to be bringing Prince Andrew back into the spotlight again because of his links with Jeffrey Epstein and Virginia Giuffre, the woman who accused him of sexual misconduct. And so he's going to be back in the headlines again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think William was absolutely right to refuse to walk alongside him and say, no, I don't think so.
And it's interesting, Anna, as well, that he did not appear at all at Royal Ascot last week. So maybe he's learning a lesson that, I've got to stay out of the public view.
Well, maybe he's doing his best because he now knows that this thing could resurface again and it's not quite gone away.
Well, no, it's not gone away, and it won't go away.
No.
It's going to be there permanently. As I've said to you before, that he's got a huge, great big black cloud over his head, and it's going to burst open. It really will.
Yeah, at any point.
At any point.
And he's right underneath it. Right. Well, listen, Charles Ray, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for the catch-up on the royal household. It's so busy, isn't it?
It is.
Lots of things going on there. Thank you very much, Charles. That, of course, is Charles Ray. He's the former royal correspondent at The Sun, joining us here at GB News. Now, still to come, I'm very excited in my difficult conversation. We'll be speaking to a young, inspirational lady. Do not go anywhere. Stay with me. Also, we'll be discussing Boris Johnson and whether or not his backbenchers, I mean, with friends like that, who needs enemies? Is it time for his backbenchers to back off? You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Stay with me. It is fast approaching 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Police in Brazil have arrested a third suspect in relation to the death of journalist Dom Phillips. Officials had earlier confirmed the human remains found in the Amazon rainforest were that of the Briton. A second body, believed to be that of an Indigenous expert, Bruno Pereira, is still under analysis. A local fisherman confessed to shooting the two men and has been charged with their murders. Electronic tags could be used to monitor migrants who cross the channel in small boats or come to the UK in lorries. Under new government plans, adults requesting asylum will be placed on immigration bail as part of a 12-month pilot scheme in England and Wales. Anyone who breaks their bail conditions could be taken back to a detention centre or even prosecuted. Boris Johnson says the plans are necessary to tackle illegal immigration.
This is a very, very generous, welcoming country. Quite right too. I'm proud of it. The government is composed of people, as you know, Tom, who trace their immediate lineage to people who've come in fear of their lives to this country. But when people come here illegally, when they break the law, it's important that we make that distinction. That's what we're doing with our Rwanda policy. That's what we're doing with making sure that asylum seekers can't just vanish into the rest of the country.
Next week's rail strikes could cost the UK economy more than £1 billion, the government has been warned. Industry group UK Hospitality estimates that tourism and leisure sectors will take a big hit due to the disruption. Tens of thousands of rail workers will strike across the country on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. It's after talks between rail operators and the unions over pay, jobs and conditions failed. Network Rail says it expects only a fifth of services to run. Hundreds of protesters have gathered in central London this afternoon, demanding government action over the rising cost of living. Research by the TUC union claims workers have lost almost £20,000 since 2008 because their pay hasn't kept up with inflation. Union officials described workers' struggle with rising bills as gut-wrenching. Boris Johnson has refused to say whether he'll replace his ethics advisor after Lord Geidt resigned. In a leaked letter, the former advisor on ministerial interests said he couldn't be party to advising on potential law-breaking. When asked this morning about the future of the position, the PM refused to confirm whether he'd keep the role.
You're ahead of me, Tom. So, but
I have to say, it's what your spokesman told us all earlier this week, that you were considering changing the way that ethics were run in Downing Street.
We're looking at what we can do to make sure that we have a sensible way forward on steel tariffs.
Boris Johnson says he hopes Ukraine can host the Eurovision Song Contest next year. After returning from a surprise trip to Kyiv, the PM said Ukraine deserves to host the event as it won this year's competition. The BBC is reportedly in talks with the European Broadcasting Union about hosting the event due to the conflict in Ukraine. And the President of the United States has been filmed falling off his bike during a ride in Delaware. Joe Biden was riding with his wife when his foot got caught and he lost control and tumbled onto the ground. The security services were quick to react and help the 79-year-old get back up onto his feet. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's get back to Nana Akua.
Good afternoon, this is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs and it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is comedian Leo Kearse and also broadcaster and director of Car 26, Lois Perry. So still to come, my difficult conversation, and today it's about Fowler's syndrome. Shortly, I'll be joined by an inspirational woman, Aoife Madden. Now, she was diagnosed with a bladder condition at the age of 16, and living with Fowler's syndrome, she's had to learn catheterise and attend many hospital appointments as a young lady. And now she wants to raise awareness for all who live with the hidden disability and struggle as they go through life. And in our Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should Boris' backbenchers back off? The Prime Minister was due to make a speech yesterday at the Northern Research Group conference in Doncaster, which was organised by Tory MPs. But instead, he travelled to Kyiv to pledge his support to the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a move which has angered some Tories. And it's reported Tom Tugendhat has chucked his hat in the ring again and made his pitch for leadership in his absence. But that's all we're talking about this hour. Stay with us. It's GB News at gbnews.uk or tweet me at GBNews. So it's time now for our difficult conversation. And this afternoon, we're talking about Fowler's syndrome. It mainly affects young women and leads to the inability to empty the bladder. Now, after my next guest was diagnosed with the chronic illness, she turned her hand to blogging, raising awareness of her condition whilst breaking down the stigma surrounding hidden disabilities. And I'm very pleased to say that I'm joined in the studio by Aoife Madam. She has an invisible illness and she blogs about her syndrome. So, Aoife, thank you very much for joining me. It's really good to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So talk to me. You look fabulous, by the way.
So do you.
So good.
Thank you very much.
Jealous. I love your hair. I'm going to get a wig just like that. So, Aoife, talk to me about when your condition was diagnosed. What was it that sort of made you realise, hang on a minute, this isn't right?
Yeah. So I was 16 years old and I went into full retention after a bout of shingles.
What do you mean full retention?
Full retention, so couldn't wee at all. So the shingles come up on my groin area and attacked the nerves within my bladder. So, yes, I stopped weeing at 16. So effectively, the last time I did a sit-down wee on a toilet was, when I was 16 years old.
So was it the shingles then that triggered this condition?
Yeah, they think so, yeah. Although most that are diagnosed with Fowler's never have a proper reason for their diagnosis. But it always happens secondary to something else. You can't just be born with Fowler's syndrome.
Oh, God, that must have been awful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awful.
Terrible. I remember at that time nurses turning on all the taps, trying to just sit me on the loo, get me to go to the toilet. But obviously that didn't happen, so I had to learn to self-catheterise from there on in, and I now have a suprapubic catheter, which sort of comes out. It's an indwelling catheter as opposed to a self-catheter, so it just empties away into a bag. That's what I've got now. Yeah.
Oh, how annoying. So how old are you now?
I'm 29 now,
Oh,
yes.
God, you don't look that old at all.
Thank you so much.
You look great, and you've had to deal with this, then. You've been looking after the self-catheterising for, what, 13 years?
Yes, that's right, yeah. So, and I guess it impacts so much. I've had over 100 general anaesthetics now in the last, 13 years, just to sort of keep me here, really. A lot of them are routine procedures that need to be done via a GA. So hospital just becomes, an everyday part of life.
So this self-catheterisation, do you have a bag that you have to change? Is that what it is?
Yes, yeah. So it's a tube at the moment that comes out of sort of my midriff, just below my belly button, and there's a small bag attached to the end of it, so it just free drains away into there. But eventually I will need a urostomy, so that's complete bladder removal. So it'll be a stoma, like a small hole on my abdomen where there'll be a permanent bag stuck to my skin. So that's the next step. So we've sort of tried everything, but bladder's in such a state now, and the level of failure is just irreparable, and it has such a knock-on effect on so many other things in my body. My kidneys have been really playing up since sort of March this year. My veins collapse upon use, so we're looking at a permanent port to be fitted. There's loads of sort of secondary things that occur because of the primary problem.
I see. And how do you cope with all of this? Because, I mean, you're very chirpy and you're very positive, and I can feel your energy is emanating from you. You look beautiful. She looks beautiful, doesn't she? And yet you're going through all of this. How are you honestly coping? From the outside, great, but seriously, truthfully.
From the outside, great, exactly. There's a lot to be said for hair and makeup and a nice dress or whatever, but because it's an invisible illness, I find that a real double-edged sword. It's really hard because quite often people need to see to believe. So I find that quite hard for them to, to help others understand what I am going through. So blogging and creating the online community that I have has really, really helped sort of me to cope, and I know subsequently others who've sort of joined the tribe are coping a lot better with their invisible illnesses.
And what about meeting people as well? Because with me, once then, I learn them in, and then I'll just chuck my wig off and go like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm bald. No, I'm not bald. But you've been suddenly. They sort of grab your hair and then they realise it's come off. And you think,
I know.
But with you, I mean, again, you've got to tell people. How does that work? And have you met someone? And hopefully you've got somebody nice who's kind to you.
Yeah, no, I have. And do you know what? it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think the more I own that situation, the easier it is for somebody else to sort of become a part of it. So I've found that talking about it a lot more openly and just saying, look, this is a part of me, and that's what I'd encourage others to do as well.
Yeah.
And really, you know, stress that without this device that I have, I wouldn't be here. So this is a gift, really, for me to still be here talking to you today. And my catheter is my superpower, really.
Yeah, so you have got a partner.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so pleased. That's nice. I'm still looking. It's not about me, it's about you.
No, and he's been great. And, you know, any partner I've had in the past, I've had really positive experiences. Yeah. And I think that is because I do sort of own the problem rather than shy away from it. I think if I was quite detached from it, I think they'd find it strange, you know, to get involved with. So I kind of just, sort of introduced them very slowly, but then, they've always been really great with it, to be fair. My partner is
you
brilliant.
talked about general anaesthetics and you have to go to hospital all the time. Why is that? Because this thing is attached to you. Does it cause pain? Are there problems with it? What is the reason why you have to sort of keep going in to get this seen to?
Yeah, so there's a lot of chronic pain involved with my condition. You know, that kind of interrupts everyday life. So I'm sort of rattling around with pain meds most of the time. And I get up during the night to do flushes to keep the catheter patent and flowing. So sometimes it can block off because my bladder produces a large amount of stone and sediment. So because of that, it can sort of block the tip of the catheter and stop me from flowing. And if I can't wee, then, well, I'm not here, so I need to keep the bladder emptying and flowing. So that's a lot of maintenance for myself, but also for hospital to get involved with too. So catheter changes at the moment are twice a week. I'm having treatment on my kidney and other little bits going on in hospital as well. So that, there's loads that hospital have to get involved with, and it's a full-time job, really, for myself and for my medical team.
And speaking of job, do you work, or is it mainly your blog, or what do you do other than all of this?
Yeah, so I'm a primary school teacher. I'm currently off work, actually, at the moment because of hospital intervention is just so full on. Work have been brilliant about it, thank God. My head teacher's wonderful, I couldn't fault her. She's been really supportive. But yeah, so I teach children in the day and then sort of blog by night. So I've kind of got a bit of a double job.
With your condition, can you have children?
Yeah, so at the moment we're looking at a urostomy as the end sort of solution for this. There is sort of questions over fertility and whether my womb will be able to stay in situ after that operation. So I'm in some difficult talks currently about that.
Do you want to have children? Would you like to?
I'd love to. I'd absolutely love to, yeah. So that is really difficult. And it kind of, everyone's on a time clock, I think, anyway. You know, when you hit a certain age as a woman, you're always thinking about those things, especially when others around you, friends are having babies and things. But for me, it's become a little bit more, prevalent that I need to sort of make those decisions now, really, and sort of start thinking more long-term.
Well, you could always adopt some. Yeah. Get somebody else to carry it for you. That would be the sensible thing. I wish I'd done that.
This is it.
You get somebody else to do the hard work, then it comes out, you think, oh, wonderful, this is great.
And isn't it amazing that there are other routes, you know? So even though that door might be shut for myself, that, it might still be left ajar for me to access, other ways of...
You'll find a way for that if you really want to do that. But it's a lot of hard work.
It is.
So much hard work.
It is. And, the NHS are brilliant, really, because if that is the route we have to go down in a hysterectomy, then I know that they'll be supportive with other routes as well. So.
Exactly. So it's not the biggest deal. The main thing is that you're still here and you're here to tell the story.
Absolutely, yeah. And that I sort of get myself through mentally, and coping with going in and out of A&E and hospital all the time is so draining because you're telling your story again and again to a new medic every time. So that is difficult. I think that does take its toll.
And I bet when you were diagnosed with it initially, sort of at 16...
Yeah.
How did you feel about that then? And did you have to pull yourself up from that?
Yeah, massively. It took me a good couple of years. I was so blessed. My family have been fantastic and my friends. I wouldn't have got through all of that difficult, initial stages without them. I didn't quite realise, I don't think, at 16, 17, the impact it was going to have forever. I knew it was a forever thing. I knew it was going to worsen with age and we'd have new hurdles to jump as I got older. But yeah, sort of every day brings a new challenge, really. But yeah, so the mental support around to have those sort of family and friends to help you, mop up the mess when it happens is really, really important. And staying strong with a positive mindset is so important.
What would you say to anyone who's sort of been diagnosed with something like that? Because I know your thing is focusing on hidden disabilities, and there are many. I know somebody who's got ulcerative colitis, and that is a nightmare. You know, people wouldn't think that he looks perfectly fine, he looks perfectly well. I mean, I myself have an autoimmune condition, I look perfectly fine, perfectly well, but, you know, there's things that you have to deal with.
Yeah. And even when you have a flare-up, you know, with autoimmune as well, you know, a flare-up can hit hard and can impact when you least expect it. I think, you know, suffering with a chronic illness is almost a community or a club we could become a part of at any point in our lives. You don't know when this is going to happen to you. And I just think that, you know, if you are diagnosed with something that is life limiting and it's long term, do, you know, get a good support group of people around you. Reach out online, because there's so many people talking about hidden disabilities now and invisible illnesses. And, you know, they're creating lovely little communities for people to be a part of. So, yeah, so I think definitely talking and sharing your story is so important. That's helped me do an awful lot of healing, actually. It's given my pain purpose to help somebody else. If I could be to someone what I needed when I was 16, that would be perfect.
Yeah, that's nice, and that's lovely. And you talked about it being life-limiting. Is it a life-limiting condition, or is it something that you can just live with and probably have a similar life expectancy to most?
No, it is life-limiting, and I think that, you know, if I allowed it to, it could probably stop me from doing so much. I'm quite strong-willed, and I don't take no for an answer. So if someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to go hell-bent to try and do that thing. You know, I've travelled to Asia with all of this and sort of had surgeries in Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, you know, to try and manage my condition while I was away. I'm quite autonomous living with this now, you know, carrying around 50ml syringes and saline solution, acid flushes in the day to make sure everything's still flowing. Yeah, so I think having that I can attitude and showing that it can enable you, not disable you, is so important. So to anyone watching, just keep fighting and keep going. Because if you believe it, it can happen.
Yeah, and your routine that you have to do, what is the worst thing, the thing that you hate the most that you have to do? Because there's, you know, some things I have to do, oh, I don't want to do that, even though you have to.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing?
My 2-hourly alarms at night time for my acid flushes are rubbish, because then I can never get back to sleep when one of those is gone. And I think navigating the route through the NHS for me and for anyone with a long-term chronic condition, I find that so hard, because, you know, I'm so loyal to our NHS. It's beautiful. I wouldn't be here without it. But, my God, it's difficult sometimes when I don't have a direct route, because my condition is quite rare.
It's so difficult to get through to anyone. Then.
Yeah, well, exactly. Wait times on the phone, or wait times when you get into hospital. But then meeting 1,000,001 medics that kind of are looking at me to direct them, it's almost like I'm a bit of a pro-patient in that field. That's really hard as well. I think sort of picking yourself up to advocate for yourself when you're really not well is really, really difficult. And during COVID, when you weren't allowed family members in to help you with advocating, it's so hard. So I'd almost say, again, to anyone watching, have your couple of little party lines ready and, you know, your little statements ready to go, and sort of dish them out to doctors as you sort of navigate your way through the system.
So there's a pearl of wisdom, something you've learnt on your journey that you could pass on to anybody who's watching and listening now. And also tell us where people can find out more.
Yeah, so you can find out more on my blog, www.bisforbladder.com, shameless plug there, and my Instagram and my TikTok as well. So we're just really active, trying to, you know, sort of stay sharing and showing others, you know, that you can do things with a long-term condition, as long as, you know, you keep trying and keep pushing and breaking boundaries. I think as well, changing the narrative on bladder is so important. For some reason, isn't spoken about, bladder's not spoken about, so let's just get up and get out there and keep speaking about these things that are hidden so others can understand.
Aoife, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's been amazing, Nana. Thank you so much.
Really good to meet you. Wonderful, wonderful. That is, of course, Aoife, madam. What an amazing, incredible woman. Right, well, listen, coming up, it's the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should Boris's backbenchers back off? Prime Minister Boris Johnson was due to speak at an event in Doncaster with other Tory MPs about levelling up. But instead, he went to Kyiv to show his support to the Ukrainians in their war against Russia. Now, this has angered some backbenchers, but we'll be talking about that. But first, let's take a quick break.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
with honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon. It's coming up to 22 minutes after 5 o'clock. Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, where on earth have you been? This is GB News. We're on TV, online, and on digital radio. We are the People's Channel, and I'm Nana Akua. And it is time now for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should Boris Becker? There were so many B's, it went wrong. Should Boris's backbenchers back off? You try saying it. Instead of giving a speech in Doncaster to the Northern Research Group, a selection of Tory MPs, the Prime Minister instead travelled to Ukraine to pledge his support to their fight against Russia. Now, this did anger some of his colleagues, and MP Tom Tugendhat, who's often throwing his hat in the ring, has done it again, and this time he's offering himself a leadership in a sense. So today, for my Great British Debate, I'm saying, should Boris's backbenchers back off? Well, let's see. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by my panel, Lois Perry and also Leo Kearse. But right now, let's have a chat with former Conservative Minister Anne Widdecombe. Anne, thank you so much for joining me. Right, so here we go again. I mean, how do you feel about Boris Johnson, first of all, that he chose to go to Ukraine rather than the Northern Research Group meeting in Doncaster?
Well, I think it's absolutely the right decision. I mean, all prime ministers can always be in 6 different, very, very worthy places at once, and they have to make a decision on priorities. We have a war in Ukraine. The UK is very involved in supplying arms and weapons and also moral support for Zelensky. We do not know whether Zelensky could have made it at another time if Boris had decided to go and do the Northern Conference. So, I just think we should calm down. What you're seeing is not a serious complaint, because even the convener of the conference has said it wasn't a snub. It was just an unfortunate clash. What you're actually seeing is people who want to bash Boris at every conceivable opportunity, and they will just find a reason for doing so. And now they're saying, well, he's let down, the Northern Powerhouse, he's let down this conference. He's actually upholding the interests of democracy and freedom.
Well, the worst bit about it is that it's coming from his own people. So it's his backbenchers who obviously want a taste of power, and they're literally trying to go at anything. It just seems... I don't like watching the party eat itself from the inside out. To me, that's unsavoury, but it seems that they want to do that. Tom Tugendhat, he keeps sort of chucking his hat in the ring.
Yeah, well, it's time Tom Tugendhat's constituency chairman had a word with him. Because, as I've said before, there's a choice, very straightforward choice, facing backbench Conservative MPs. They can carry on this way. They can carry on bashing Boris and present themselves as thoroughly divided, undisciplined party. They can go on doing that, and they guarantee to lose the next election. Or they can become a cohesive fighting force and get behind Boris. Now, the choice is theirs. But the other thing I would say is this. OK, I'm not a member of the Conservative Party, but I used to be a Conservative MP, and I've seen this all before. I saw it throughout the Major administration when people were putting sectional interests ahead of the country and ahead of the party's interests. And the net result was, of course, a record Labour landslide. Now, that's where Tom Tugendhat wants to go. That's up to Tom Tugendhat, but I would strongly urge his colleagues to take a rather different line.
Yeah, it just seems so ridiculous, because if they thought it through, they would realise that actually they are doing more damage by speaking in this way. But then, of course, we've got the by-elections in Tiverton and Wakefield. Those are on their way as well. And people are going to be looking at that as if to say that perhaps Boris's behaviour is affecting it. Do you think that because in my view, it seems they've forgotten that actually the local elections, if you are a very good MP and you represent your constituents, a bit like David Amos, if you're one of those and you represent and people love you, it doesn't matter who's in power. Do you think that some of these people are losing that they're losing the plot here when it comes to this?
They're losing sight of their own party's interest. It is in nobody's interest that you approach two vital by-elections in a disunited state, with people criticising the leader, throwing their hats into the ring, staging very disguised leadership bids. That is not going to win us by-elections, it won't win us council elections, and it won't win us the general election. I say us, that's out of habit. It's them these days.
Yeah, it is them, isn't it? I mean, I don't recognise the Conservative Party, to be fair, the way that I don't recognise them at all. If you were to give them one bit of advice, what would you say to his backbenchers who keep wanting to sort of literally turn everything over, constantly trying to bash Boris?
I would ask a simple question. Do you really want to win? Do you really, really want to win? And if the answer to that is yes, then you've got to be a fighting force, not a rabble.
I love that. Anne Widdecombe, thank you so much for that. That's Anne Widdecombe, her view. She's the former Conservative minister. I sort of agree with her, but let's see what Aubrey has to say, because I'm now joined by Aubrey Allen Goretti, the political correspondent for The Guardian. So, Aubrey, OK, so you were actually at the Northern Research Group meeting yesterday. What was the reaction in the room when Boris just didn't appear?
Well, it was quite odd, because we were hearing from Number 10 very early on in the day that Boris Johnson probably wouldn't be making the conference. Then that line shifted to he certainly wouldn't. And meanwhile, the organisers were still being told by a different part of Number 10, the events organising team, that he would still be there. And that is where I think this real frustration has grown from, not the fact that Boris Johnson obviously had to go abroad to do what he would say was important international duties, but that they were misled. They feel that they were told that he would be there, that he would be addressing this conference just down the road from Wakefield, where they're obviously going to be having a by-election next week, and he would be there in person to listen to the ideas that they had to put forward. And I think the fact that he wasn't, and they were told that he would be, even up until just hours before he was due to present that sort of keynote speech, doing a Q&A with Jake Berry, who's the leader of the Northern Research Group, is why they then came out with such frustration when it emerged that he wouldn't be there with just a few hours' notice.
Well, Aubrey, put yourself in his shoes, right? You're about to go and meet President Volodymyr Zelensky. You can't announce it, because if you announce it, then I'm sure Vladimir Putin will be thinking, oh, really? So you've got to almost create a sort of subterfuge type thing where people don't know where you're going, or you might be, or you might be. So he couldn't really announce where he was going or what he was doing instead. So you would be saying that, wouldn't you? If you're in his position, what would you do if you knew that you weren't going to be able to make it?
I think people can be completely sympathetic to the very important security reasons for not telling people where you're going to go. However, there was a government source I spoke to during the day who said that this meeting with President Zelensky had been in the government grid, which is essentially the sort of calendar for the government that week, for a week. So last Friday, it was known that Boris Johnson would be going to Ukraine, to those people working inside government, or at least meeting Zelensky, and therefore it would be quite hard for him to then attend this conference in Doncaster. So I think, again, it's not the fact that he went or what he did there. It was they felt a sort of duplicity and a maligning of their concerns, particularly in the run-up to the by-election, but also when his position has become so sort of shaky, because they thought, we backed you, a lot of these Northern Research Group MPs, they said, we backed you in the confidence vote last week, and we feel like that's been thrown in our face, not because you went, but because you told us that you were coming here, you lied to us, and that you told us you'd be here, but you weren't.
Yeah, but if they were really good MPs, so in your constituency, like, so for example, David Amess, if you saw David Amess, the late David Amess, the fantastic man, everybody loved him irrespective of which party they supported. And surely local elections are based on more you as a person and how you're handling the community as opposed to the overall political party. So do you think that this was a dangerous thing for the Conservative Party because of this particular, I suppose, mishap in a way?
Yes, quite possibly, and obviously it's understandable that Boris Johnson might have sort of shied away from coming up to Doncaster, because it is just sort of 20-40 miles from Wakefield, where the by-election is happening next week. Now, obviously, nobody knows what's going to happen, but having been there myself and spoken to other sort of commentators, journalists, Conservative politicians and Labour politicians, the consensus seems to be that Labour are likely to take that seat back, not potentially by the sort of landslide that we might expect, but, you know, it's an important part of the red wall that the Conservatives really want to focus on trying to keep their grip on, and that Labour need to show that they're making inroads in towards the next general election. So the sort of party politics element of this, as it's viewed by the media and also by Conservative MPs themselves, because they'll be getting jittery, thinking about what's going to happen to their own seats, is still very important, that political lens to view it through as well.
Briefly then, finally, what were the backbenchers right then to sort of have a go at Boris for this particular incident?
Well, they were frustrated. I mean, there were some very punchy quotes. I was very surprised, to be honest, by the level of frustration that we felt in those sort of few hours, because we spoke to Jake Berriott, who's the leader of the Northern Research Group, at about 2 or 3 p.m. And he just said, look, I understand, you know, this is one of the things you have to accept if you put the Prime Minister to speak at your conference. But the fury from some of the MPs later was really quite surprising. And again, I think spoke to the fact that they felt like they had been misled or lied to, rather than the fact that the Prime Minister had to be somewhere else.
Well, listen, Aubrey, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking time out. I think, are you walking the dog or something out there? Is that what you're doing?
You can probably hear him in the background.
Yeah, I did. I thought so. Aubrey, it's really good to talk to you. That's Aubrey Allegretti. He's a political correspondent for The Guardian. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, we'll continue our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should Boris's backbenchers back off? You'll hear the thoughts from my panel. Comedian Leo Kearse, also broadcaster and director of Car 26, Lois Perry. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thanks, Nana. It's just after 5:30. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Electronic tags could be used to monitor migrants who cross the Channel in small boats or come to the UK in lorries. Under new government plans, adults requesting asylum will be placed on immigration bail as part of a 12-month pilot scheme in England and Wales. Anyone who breaks their bail conditions could be taken back to a detention centre or even prosecuted. Police in Brazil have arrested a third suspect in relation to the death of journalist Dom Phillips. Earlier, officials confirmed that human remains found in the Amazon rainforest were those of the missing Briton. A second body, believed to be that of Indigenous expert Bruno Pereira, is still under analysis. A local fisherman confessed to shooting the two men and has been charged with their murders. Next week's rail strikes could cost the UK economy more than £1 billion. The government has been warned. Industry group UK Hospitality estimates the tourism and leisure sectors will take a big hit due to the disruption. Tens of thousands of rail workers will go on strike across the country on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday over pay, jobs and conditions. And the President of the United States has been filmed falling off his bike during a ride in Delaware. Joe Biden was riding with his wife when his foot got caught and he lost control and tumbled onto the ground. The security services were quick to react and help the 79-year-old get back onto his feet. We're on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Stay with us. Nana will be back in just a moment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 39 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Right now, it is time for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should Boris's backbenchers back off? Instead of giving a speech in Doncaster to a selection of Tory MPs, the Prime Minister instead travelled to Ukraine to pledge his support to their fight against Russia. This angered some of his colleagues and gave them more ammunition to call for him to go. So today for my Great British Debate, I'm asking, should Boris Johnson's backbenchers back off? Let's see what my panel make of that. Lois Perry and also Leo Kearse. Right, I'm going to start with you, Lois. What do you think?
Classic case of bashing the Boris as opposed to bashing the Bishop.
Oh dear.
Simply, but if you get it, then yeah, so that's okay. But no, seriously, you know, internal ructions should be kept to just that. They should be internal ructions. It just destabilises the whole government. I like Boris, I do. He's charismatic, it's great. I don't agree with a lot of his economic stuff recently, and I certainly...
Sunak.
Well, yeah, but he is his chancellor, and I certainly don't agree with his net zero stuff and the position on fracking. And I urge everyone to sign my petition, end fracking ban.
She gets that in every time.
I'm so sorry. I've got to do it because it has to be debated in Parliament, and we need 100,000 signatures. We're on 20,000. We've only got 2 months. Anyway,
I wondered how soon you get that in, but you saved it to the end of the show. That's good news. I happen to agree with you anyway.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad form for Boris to not show up. It was interesting hearing Aubrey say that he didn't show up. They were told he was going to show up, and on the day they find out he's not going to show up. So I think that's where the anger comes. If people had known, then they could have got an alternative speaker. And also, you know, some people might be saying, well, Boris at the moment he's unpopular, so it wouldn't help with the by-election in Wakefield, which is very nearby.
Yeah.
I think it actually would. It would show that Boris is taking, you know, the red wall and taking the northern constituencies that have just come over to the Tories, taking them seriously and listening to them. Instead, you know, jetting off off to Ukraine. I understand, he's been fantastic at, showing support and solidarity with Ukraine and showing Europe, how we need to deal with Russia and providing arms to Ukraine. But you've also got to get elected at home, or it's going to be Keir Starmer delivering those tanks to Ukraine.
No, it's not going to be Keir Starmer.
Well, he'd never support somebody against the Soviet Union anyway. He'd be welcoming the Soviet Union.
Well, you don't know. I'm sure he would at least have the sense to
I think it would have been a great message for Boris to go up and show the red wall that he's taking their concerns seriously, because there hasn't been much delivery on levelling up and all these grand promises that were made.
Well, I've had some of the red wall councillors and so on and so forth that actually Boris has given the money, the councils are doing things, and since when the Labour Party were running it, they didn't get anything.
Yeah.
So they're saying that they've left it in the hands with the Labour Party.
They're not woke enough in the north, are they?
Well, because first of all, it's the word Sir Keir Starmer that's putting people off. He's very Islington, isn't he? And I think the Labour Party will always struggle with that sort of that thing. They need to bridge the gap between the trade unions, who are causing havoc at the moment, and of course, then you've got the sort of Etonian sort of sect that live in Islington. But seriously,
Labour just abandoned their former working class vote in the north.
I was about to say that. They hate the working class.
Absolutely, just abandon them. And you saw the tweets, the victims of grooming gangs. Naz Shah, the Labour MP, tweeted, these girls need to shut up. These victims need to shut up
I haven't
for the
seen
sake
that.
of diversity.
So that tweet does exist. I mean,
For the sake of diversity.
For the sake of racial and social cohesion, that they girls just shut their mouths.
Yeah.
Is that what he said? I mean, look, I haven't seen the tweet. Is that what she said?
Yeah.
Well, that's disgraceful as she did. I haven't seen the tweet, so I can't verify that.
Yeah.
But you're both saying it, so it's from your mouths, not mine. Right? Just so you know. But seriously, though, on this level, though, what you said, Leo, in my mind, he is the Prime Minister. He cannot say, I'm going to Ukraine. So he can't say that. So, this is a big thing. And perhaps this is the only time that Volodymyr Zelensky was available for him to go and do that. And he can't really... He has to have an excuse, doesn't he? So what would he say? Because what Aubrey said was that others around him knew that he might not be coming. It was the main organisers that didn't know that he wasn't.
I think if he couldn't turn up, he should have arranged a special guest star to, send Jacob Rees-Mogg or someone. Or maybe somebody who's going to be more popular.
Or Tom Tugendhat, maybe.
Oh, Tom Tugendhat. Well, maybe that's what Tom
maybe
Tugendhat
he's going to get sent to Rwanda. He'll be actually on the next flight. The only one on the flight, probably. But I think they've been rivals for quite a long time. That's my understanding.
Well,
that's why he has never been in the cabinet.
It was after that speech that he did that everyone thought, it was amazing, it was amazing. I mean, it was a good speech, but, we can all produce a great speech, but then you've got to follow through with some...
I don't know what his green policies are. I'm waiting to hear back.
So do you think perhaps Tom Tugendhat could have been a stand-in and could have done something, rather than stabbing him in the back, perhaps just done something to help?
I don't think there was any chance whatsoever that Boris Johnson was going to send Tom Tugendhat up there.
Not think?
No, not really, no.
Why?
Well, he keeps putting himself forward for the leadership, doesn't he? So,
He should have sent Nadine Dorries. She seems like she's not going to stab him in the back. She'll be there right to the end.
Distrust.
Team Boris.
I like Nadine. I think she's got some very good points.
Oh, she's got some terrible policies. The online safety bill, absolutely.
I think it's a good idea.
No, it's ridiculous. It would absolutely destroy online. So it would destroy online privacy, and it would destroy any comedy. I couldn't put any comedy online. Because anybody could say, I'm offended by that, and then I get sent to jail. Or
I'm surprised that it would be... I suppose it's because it's open to interpretation.
Absolutely.
That it leaves it available for people to take the woke angle rather than a sort of liberal understanding of what you're saying.
You can't have legislation that is open to interpretation. It's a recipe for disaster.
We're all equal, but some of us are more equal than others, and the people that are more equal than us would be making the decision about what is and isn't funny, what isn't offensive. And so I understand what you're saying. The legislation in itself is great, but it's how it's used, isn't it?
And of course, then somebody will define where the line is. So, for example, something on the BBC, they will create what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. And if you fall below or above that, then, I hear you. But somebody has to. It has to be done somewhere. It's not possible, is it, to just have
doesn't have to be done.
I don't think we will be. We wouldn't cut through the line, would we? This panel would be offensive.
We don't need to.
We'd be ejected out of the room.
We'd be in Rwanda.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's see. This show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voice, your opportunity to be on the show. Tell us what you really think about the topics we're discussing. Where should we go? Should we go again? Let's go to Hull again. Why not? I quite like Dan, and he spoke to me last week. He owns a falafel falafel shop in Trinity Market. This is a different Dan. Oh, it is Dan. I thought you were a hairdresser.
Hello.
Says you've got a falafel shop.
Yes,
You've got a falafel
I was.
Oh, you were. You don't have it. Is it the COVIDs that did it?
No, the falafel shop kind of grew legs, and I've had to jump ship and steady that ship for a while. So yeah.
Okay.
Hair and falafel.
Hair and falafel. Ooh. A hair falafel. Ooh, no, I'll stop there. I think I'm going to stop there. Keep it clean. Stop it, people. Don't go down an awful place. Right, Dan, so talk to me then. What do you think about this? Boris's backbenchers seem to be doing the work of the Labour Party, but what's your view?
Well, I was listening to what Anne was saying, and she had a point, and I think it's about timing. And when there's local by-elections and you want to appear unified, it's not good if you've got your backbenchers coming out criticising the leader. But at the same time, what you were saying earlier, Nana, was that you found that the ones who are desperate for power, because you will always get those types of personalities in that kind of situation, will not think about the wider implications of what they're doing, and they will just go for it if it means they'll be able to score political points. That said, we still do need a democracy, and this is how democracy works. If MPs disagree with each other, they need to be able to voice those concerns, especially if the leader's a little bit flaky. But given the situation, after what Aubrey said from The Guardian, he was quite generous and explained that it was to do with a comms issue. There was a miscommunication. I think really in this instance, they should have just kept zit for now.
For now. Listen, Dan, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for giving us your thoughts. Really good to talk to you. Right, now, just quickly, before we move on, what both Lois and Leo said about Labour MP Naz Shah telling grooming victims to shut up was slightly incorrect. She liked and shared a tweet. She did not actually tweet that herself.
Well, at
the time, a spokesperson, not really the same thing.
It's a tweet.
Hang on, sorry, Leo. Thank you. At the time, a spokesperson for Ms Shah said it was a genuine accident that was rectified within minutes. Right, let's move on. Just stop. Shush, be quiet. Listen. Hello. Thank you. Listen, I'm digging you out of a hole. If you want to dig yourself back in, then I won't undig you.
I said she tweeted it.
Yeah, no. Listen, Lois has been sensible, but you want to go down the hole, but I'm not coming with you. Right, let's move on. Let's have a quick look at what you've been saying. Arthur says, because we were talking, obviously, about Boris Johnson's backbenchers, just literally digging him down the hole. And, but what do you think? Arthur says, I'm starting now to think that he should resign after going to the Ukraine and talking about the Eurovision Song Contest instead of visiting a Northern Conference about levelling up. London says, what a great name. They had a vote of no confidence and he won. Didn't lose it. That means that they should accept him as PM for now. However, they should still lobby for change. Arnold says, no, he missed the NRG conference where he could have put a lot of criticism to bed, but instead went to Ukraine to announce something we all assumed we were already doing. All good. Thank you so much for your thoughts. But right now, it's time for the quickfire quiz. That's the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines right now. Joining me, comedian Leo Kirst, also broadcaster and director of Car 26, Lois Perry. Right, let's hear your buzzers. Leo, your buzzer first. Lois, your buzzer.
Ding dong.
Lovely. Right, so the rules of this are simply I will ask the questions. Do not answer before the question is finished. And if you buzz in, well, just buzz in. Make sure you buzz in before you speak. Right, question one, and please play along at home. Which actor has come out and said that straight actors should not play gay roles? I'm afraid I'm going to have to disqualify you, Lois, because I haven't finished. I warned you of that.
I didn't know you had to... Sorry, I didn't know you had to the answer.
Oh, OK,
Sorry.
I'll let you off because you weren't sure. Okay. All right. A, Tom Hardy, B, Tom Hanks, or C, Tom Holland? Oh, Leo, you could have played.
It's Tom Hanks.
Yes, it was indeed Tom Hanks. What would you have said, Lois?
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom Hanks. What was that film that he did when he was like...
Philadelphia.
No, the island one.
Oh, Castaway.
Oh, the one sponsored by, was it FedEx? And FedEx was everywhere. It was ridiculous. It was on the planes, it was on the boxes. Yeah, I noticed things like that. It was ludicrous. Even the tape, everything had FedEx on it.
So what do you think then? Should gay actors be able to play straight actors and vice versa, or does it not matter?
I think people should only be able to play exactly who they are and what they're dressed. So if you want to do a film about medieval times, you've actually got to exhume the corpses of medieval people and have Richard III running around.
Yeah,
That'd be
pick him up.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd definitely go and see that.
I think actors are pretending to be other people, and so of course all different actors can play different roles. One of my favourite actors, it's Sir Derek Jacobi, plays a straight guy in Last Tango in Halifax, and he's brilliant. So what, would he not be allowed to play an old man that finds love with an older woman?
Well, it depends if he's gay or straight, because the actor, Tom Hanks, said that as a straight man, he could not now make Philadelphia, in which he played a gay man who is dying of AIDS. I saw the film, I thought it was fantastic.
It was.
He was speaking to the New York Times magazine. He said he didn't think people would accept the inauthenticity of a straight guy playing a gay guy. I think he's wrong, but anyway. Let's see, question 2. Right, how much will parents be fined if they take their children on holiday during the school term? Closest answer wins. How much?
£1,000.
Leo, what about you? Press your buzzer.
£800?
£800. Let's see if it was right. 120.
120. £1,000. I suppose it depends what school they're at, doesn't it?
I don't know what school your kids go to, but 120 quid. That's a lot for me. All parents who apparently take their children on holiday during the term will be handed a fixed penalty notice, the government announced today. Really? The new crackdown will also see fines issued to parents whose children are late 5 times in one term, take 5 unauthorised absences, go on holiday during term time, or are out in public in 5 days of an exclusion. Wow.
They like the word 5, don't they?
Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think we need to tighten up on truancy, especially after... so we had, lockdown, children weren't in school, and I think there's been issues getting children back into school and back into the routine.
Can we fine the government for the days that they didn't have the kids in school during the lockdown? Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. They're getting all holier than thou about it now. And what about, single mums who they've got 15-year-old boys and no dad... What? And they can't. What, they go physically get a 6'4" guy into school? I mean, I don't think it's fair. Actually, I think it's the women that are going to suffer the most.
You think? Well, I don't know. I think it's okay. I don't like the idea of it, but hey, look, if I think you should be allowed to take your kids out of school to try and take advantage of cheaper holidays. Right, question 3. Let's go. What has the French government done today that has upset holidaygoers? Is it A, banned all outdoor events? Is it B, blocked the French border? Or C, trick question, everyone is upset at the French government anyway?
Everyone's upset at the French government anyway?
Lois, it's got...
I think they've banned outdoor events.
Let's see what the answer is. They've banned all outdoor events. Leo, well done.
Why did they do
What's the
that?
score? I hope somebody's doing the score. Well, that's because France has banned outdoor events as part of the country's hit 40 degrees Celsius, a record-breaking heat wave that's sweeping Europe, with a number of hospitals at capacity and school children in red alert areas. They've been told to stay at home.
This is the first eco-lockdown. This is it. This is what I've been talking about, because, next it will be there's too much CO2 in the air and then we need to lock down. This is the first example, because they've got everybody used to it, using COVID, and now they're doing this.
Could it not be that at 40 degrees you could die?
But they've not done it before. Is it the first time they've done it, or have they done it before?
I don't know. What do you think, Leo?
I think you should be able to go outside and go jump in the sea. Then you'll cool down. Or jump in the Seine.
All right, let's see.
Or the rivers.
Right, true or false? Question 4, true or false? The Blackpool eliminations are racist.
What? Why?
What do you think, Leo?
Well, it's 2022, so this has to be true. Everything's racist.
What? No.
Answer is it's true.
Oh my God!
Yeah, because there's a Native American light display. It's going to be axed after 60 years following complaints from 2 members of Chickasaw Nation tribe who moved to the UK. Do you think that the lights need changing, Leo?
I mean, I'm in two minds about this. I mean, looking at them, you wouldn't make a light display like that now, but it's an artefact from the times. It's historical. And also it's in Blackpool. I don't know who would move from America to Blackpool. That is, that's a bit of an...
Why would you do that?
There's nothing really wrong with it. I mean, why would it be offensive?
I don't understand why it's offensive, because what they're now saying is that anything that is a depiction of another culture is offensive. Why? Could it not be celebrating the culture from 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when those kind of ceremonies were happening on a regular basis in America? I don't know.
Well, you think, wouldn't you? But
yeah.
Obviously, whoever wants to take them down, there's 2 people who've come from wherever
What's
it is
wrong
just
with
to complain
people,
about
Nana?
it. 2 people, though. 2 of them complained.
Oh,
That's enough. 2 people complained, just 1 would have done it. OK, question 5. How long did it take for Sir Keir Starmer to return his Beergate questionnaire to the police? Is it A, 2 hours? Is it B, 2 days? Or is it C, 2 weeks? Leo?
It's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Lois, what do you think?
2 days.
2 days. Let's see. The answer is C. 2 weeks. You're right. Absolutely right. Yes, Sir Keir Starmer was facing questions last night over why it took him more than a fortnight to give his account at Beergate to the police. The Labour leader finally returned a questionnaire to Durham police yesterday. His spokesman confirmed that he'd received legal advice on his answers. What do you think? I mean, isn't he a QC? Shouldn't he be able to do that?
He's the head of the CPS. You think he'd be able to give himself legal advice. Yeah, I mean, it shows it takes time to arrange alibis.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, he probably got his wife to fill it in or something.
Do you think his wife filled it in?
Yeah, probably.
No, bless him.
I know. I can imagine him having his wife doing stuff like that for him.
Yeah, but if she had, she would have done it in a day or even 2 minutes, not 2 weeks.
That's
2
true.
weeks.
Maybe he lost the form.
Yeah, but you think as a QC he'd be able to do it himself?
You would think so.
Anyway. Right, so at the end of that, I can safely tell you it's 5-0 to Leo.
Well done.
Finally. Well done.
My only competition is with myself.
Yeah, well, listen, well done you. Right, well, listen, and well done to you playing along at home. On today's show, we've been asking, what did I ask you today? Let's see, what did I ask today on today's show?
It was, should illegal immigrants, or some of them be tagged?
And the backbencher thing.
What do you think? What was the view? Well, let's see. Most of you said, well, I don't know, it doesn't say. Well, I'm going to say thank you so much to my wonderful panel. Leo Curtis, thank you very much, Leo. And also Lois Perry. Thank you so much, Lois. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And a big thank you to you at home, as ever, for being part of the show. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4 o'clock, same time, same place. Be there or be square.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking wet across parts of the south with some heavy showers, but drier in the north. Let's take a look at the details. Heavy rain will move across southwest England this evening with some blustery winds around the coast, but it will be a dry night. Heavy showers will continue in the London area this evening, possibly the odd rumble of thunder at times. It will feel fresher compared to recent nights. The rain will start to clear South Wales through the evening to give a dry end to the day with some clear spells. It will turn chilly under starry skies this evening. Spells of heavy rain will cover the Midlands, perhaps giving a few rumbles of thunder in the east later. It will feel much fresher this evening. It'll be a dry picture in the northeast of England tonight with clear spells for most, quickly turning chilly under clear skies. It'll be dry at first in southern Scotland this evening, but skies will cloud over, bringing scattered showers to end the day, turning breezy later. Skies will cloud over in Northern Ireland this evening as the cloud thickens. There could be a few spots of rain in the north. The heavy rain across the south will gradually ease tonight, clearing to the far southeast by dawn. A largely dry night elsewhere and chilly in the countryside. And that's how the weather is shaping up overnight into tomorrow morning.
Join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain every Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m. A news hour that comes with a trigger warning. Scorching hot opinion with prominent guests saying the unsayable and a little bit of weekend fun thrown in. Unlike other broadcasters, I won't be forgetting what the B in our name stands for. So howie in for Real Britain Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
every morning from 6 o'clock. We'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team.